Mention the ancient names Sodom and Gomorrah, and they instantly evoke scenes of fire, brimstone, and total annihilation. Yet this famous tale of divine wrath is actually a very grounded warning about the slow, creeping danger of human greed. The conflict starts with two men, Abram and his nephew, Lot. They were traveling together as nomads, carrying vast amounts of wealth, livestock, and servants. One of history's most severe apocalyptic legends began with something mundane, a family dispute over resources. Their combined herds were simply too massive. The herdsmen of Abram and Lot began quarreling daily over access to limited water and grass. To keep the peace, Abram offered a generous diplomatic solution. He gave Lot the absolute first choice of where to settle. Looking out across the landscape, Lot saw the plains of Jordan. It was a premium, well-watered expanse, and he eagerly claimed it for his family. Securing those premium pastures required a significant compromise. He pitched his tent right next to cities infamous for their extreme wickedness, Sodom and Gomorrah. By letting the desire for top-tier material assets override his need for moral safety, Lot set off a chain reaction he could no longer control. Eventually, the depravity inside those city walls hit a tipping point, resulting in a divine decree to wipe them from the map. Abram pleaded with God to spare the cities, asking if they could be saved for the sake of even 10 good men. But 10 good men could not be found. Heavenly messengers were sent directly into the city to pull Lot and his family out. They issued a strict, urgent directive for survival. The rules for the escape were absolute. They had to flee to the hills immediately, and they were forbidden to look behind them. Surviving this judgment demanded a complete, decisive psychological break from the wealth and status they had accumulated down in the plains. Lot, his wife, and their 2 daughters fled in chaos as the promised fire began to rain down on their home. In the middle of that desperate sprint, Lot's wife made a fatal error. She disobeyed the explicit command, stopped her forward momentum, and looked back at the doomed city. Instantly, she was transformed into a pillar of salt. This animated scale illustrates exactly why this happened. When you weigh material affection against spiritual obedience, the material side pulls the subject backward. Her punishment was the ultimate, literal manifestation of idolatry. The theologian David Jeremiah points out that idolatry is not limited to bowing to carved statues. It is the act of becoming too attached to the material world, falling more in love with earthly possessions than with heavenly directives. Her physical transformation perfectly mirrored her internal spiritual state. She was frozen forever by her absolute inability to let go of her material wealth. The judgment left behind total desolation, turning what was once a lush, premium plain into an uninhabitable wasteland. By aggressively maneuvering to secure the best possible land for himself, Lot ironically ended up losing absolutely everything he owned. Abram took the opposite approach. He willingly yielded his material rights, trusted in divine provision, and as a result, he prospered immensely, earning the title Friend of God. It exposes a heavy paradox. The greedy pursuit of worldly security is exactly what guarantees its eventual destruction. Thousands of years later, this story survives as a sharp psychological warning for modern life. It echoes directly into the teachings of Jesus, particularly his parable of the rich fool, which cautions that a person's life is not measured by the abundance of their possessions. The real challenge is evaluating what actually sits at the center of our own affections today. Moral collapse rarely starts with a sudden explosion. It begins with a quiet, greedy glance toward the plains and a fatal look back at what we refuse to leave behind. Mention